issue quite clear. Now comes the complicated one, which has many dimensions. And yet others will not show affection toward anyone. Dear Krishna, please properly explain this matter to us. And Krishna says, some people are genuinely merciful, like parents who are naturally affectionate. Such persons devotedly serve even those who fail to reciprocate with them. This is true affection. And those are following the true faultless path of religion. And they are the true well-wishers. Meaning those who demonstrate their affection not as a business, not as a barter, not as a calculation of what they can get out of it, not as a selfish, exploitative display of something that actually has a very different motive behind it. Then, in the third category, those who are maram. They're not in need of anything. So they may not reciprocate what they've been given. Then there are those who are materially fulfilled and don't need to play the barter game. Then there are those most undesirable who are ungrateful, or worse still, envious of their superiors. And that's why they don't reciprocate. Such persons will not love even those who love them. What to speak of those who are inimical to them? Now, Krishna reveals the nature of his love and reciprocation. But the reason I do not immediately reciprocate the affection of living beings, even when they worship me, O gopis, is that I want to intensify their loving devotion. Then they become like a poor man who has gained some treasure and then lost it, and who thus becomes so anxious about it that he cannot think of anything else. Purport. Lord Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita, Yeyatam mam prapadyante tanmastatyavam bhajamyaham. As people approach me, I reciprocate with them accordingly. Yet even if the Lord is approached by someone with devotion, in order to intensify the devotee's love, the Lord may not immediately reciprocate fully. Or so it seems. In fact, the Lord is truly reciprocating, meaning that his apparent neglect is the form of reciprocation that he is choosing to answer our prayers to increase our love. After all, a sincere devotee always prays to the Lord, please help me to love you purely. The Lord's so-called neglect is actually the fulfillment of the devotee's prayer. Krishna intensifies our love for him by apparently separating himself from us, and the result is that we achieve what we really wanted and prayed for: intense love for the absolute truth, Krishna. Thus, Lord Krishna's apparent negligence is actually his thoughtful reciprocation and the fulfillment of our deepest and purest desire. According to the Acharyas, as Lord Krishna began to speak this verse, the gopis looked at one another with squinting eyes, trying to hide the smiles breaking out on their faces. Even as Lord Krishna was speaking, the gopis had begun to realize that he was bringing them to the highest perfection of loving exchange. Om Ganataramandasya Ganajana Shalakaya Chakshuramalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Today, first day of Kartik, time to appreciate how the Vedic calendar assigns to each month an appropriate name of Krishna. Therefore, this month is named Damodar. The Gaudiya Vaishnavas add a deeper perspective. In adding to the name of the king of months, Damodar, the name of Damodar's queen, Kartika Rani, abbreviated as Kartik. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna tells us that I am Magashirsha, which is the month of September, October. And it is natural that Radha follow Krishna in personifying the next month. It's a time which Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu praises the nature of austerities undertaken as Urja Vrat. Urja is a name for Krishna's internal potency for performing lila. And Urjeshwari is the queen of all such pastime potencies. And the austerities chosen during this month are intended to please her. Damodar Lila, from the Vatsalya perspective, the most common understanding is the worship of Mother Jashoda's most pure parental love. It's actually an expansion of a similar pastime in the realm of Madhurya, when Krishna was late for a romantic rendezvous, and Radha, in feigned anger, tied him up with a flowering creeper to a tree, and he was bound. Shastra tells us that as there is no age equal to Satyayuga, no scripture equal to Veda, no pilgrimage equal to Ganges, there is no time in the year equal to Kartik, which is most dear to the devotees, who are themselves most dear to Kartik Devi, and deeply cherish her sweet relationship during this month, which we attract in various ways. Most essential is the lamp, which symbolizes, from our end, the perspective of the jiva, It symbolizes the fire of sacrifice, the offer of love. And from the divine perspective, it symbolizes divine presence. Assuring that the darkness of our sins cannot endure the luster of the lamp offered during Kartik, the cumulative experience of which will come back to us at the time of death to illumine our path back to Godhead. And Krishna so much loves the month of Kartik that he awards some special benedictions to even the most minimal services by granting them the maximum benefits, spiritual benefits, which satisfies the jiva's yearning to relish those leelas highlighting his bhakti vatsalya, his love for his devotees. Hearing and experiencing Krishna's love grants relief from the misery in this world created by contact of the senses with their objects, by engaging them in the service of the master of the senses, Hrishikesh, upon which we feel a natural sense of happiness as spiritual life awakens. And fulfills the soul's deepest need, which is to love someone and feel loved in return. Krishna bore living testimony to his part in the relationship, in reciprocation with his devotees, it's not a Kartik pastime, but it, in a sense, exemplifies the reason why Kartik pastimes award this month the name of Radha and explain why her blessings and grace are so exceptionally profound during this month. And basically, that is because of the high concentration of leelas, which emphasizes his bhakti vatsalya, his love for his devotees, so pleasing and soothing to the heart. And there's one famous pastime that so much highlights this principle. When Krishna was playing with the gopas, he and Balaram took opposite sides, and they had a duel. The pre-established conditions of the duel is that the victor got to ride on the shoulders of the defeated like a proud rider on a prancing steed. So, this is the pastime of Pralambashura. He was in the assembly under the guise of a gopa, and Pralambashura took Krishna's side, and Krishna lost in the duel. So Krishna had to carry Sri Dhamma. Balaram won. So he got to ride on Pralamba. What's the point here? This pastime of of Krishna carrying Sri Dhamma on his shoulders, being defeated by him in a duel, parades his most cherished aspect of being conquered and controlled by his devotees' love. And we hear that in the words of Satyavrata Muni, Damodarastakam, which is another, along with offering a lamp, essential component of sadhana during this month. And that wonder, how Krishna is conquered and subdued by his devotees' love, permeates and becomes immortal in the prayers of the like of Kunti Devi and Kolavet Sridhar. How is it that the omnipotent, all-powerful, self-satisfied Atmaram Sri Krishna, who controls all powers and is fully self-satisfied, how is it that he is controlled and conquered by love? How is this possible? Because in the depth of our hearts, in the essence of our soul, lies a spark of his Ladini Shakti. Which is the ultimate force in all creation. You see testimony to that everywhere, that there is no power equal to that of love. There is no obstacle that enough love cannot overcome. No disease that enough love cannot cure in whatever way it finds to be appropriate. And if we could simply love sufficiently, we would become the most powerful person in the world. Once again, and this is a very important point to consider through this month, why is this month considered to be identical with Srimati Radharani? Why her blessings so much permeate and infuse even the slightest services during this month to award the most inconceivable reciprocation and results? It is because there is no other month in the year when there is such a condensed sequence of pastimes highlighting Krishna's Bhakta Vatsalya, his love for his devotees. And thus, any service offered during this month with this consciousness fulfills Krishna's deepest desire to lavishly reward his devotees for the most infinitesimal acts of devotion and services during this month will attract the quintessence of the most cherished spiritual blessings from Srimati Radharani. This is also the month that Krishna returned to Vrindaban from Mathura. You know, Krishna had sent Uddhava to deliver his messages to the Brajavasis. And Uddhava had to promise to the Brajavasis he would somehow or other bring Krishna back. And Uddhava was involved in all Krishna's pastimes in Mathura. So after Krishna's reciprocating the love of Kubja, Uddhava was pleading with him by his glances. When will you return to Braj? And Krishna understood it would have to be soon, because he had recently killed Kamsa. His two widows had returned to Magadha, where their father Jarasandha was so incensed that his son-in-law had been killed by Krishna that he vowed to exterminate the Jadus from the face of the earth as revenge. And reports were already arriving from the east that he had begun to act upon his word by amassing a vast army, which would attack not only one time, but 17 times. After which Krishna would have to shelter the Jadus in his fort within the ocean, Dwarka. And Krishna was thinking that if he didn't return to Braj after relocating to Dwarka, the Brijavasis would simply perish out of separation. If he didn't return from nearby Mathura, what would be the hope that he would return from faraway Dwarka? And bereft of that hope that was sustaining the Brijavasis, every day they were making preparation for Krishna's return year after year. Their hope was related to Krishna. If he went to Dwarka without returning to Braj, they would lose that hope and they would perish. So Krishna had composed so many letters for the Brijavasis and received so many of them in return. His desk was just covered with letters smudged by his own tears. When one day, like an omen from heaven, or a celestial deity, he heard the flapping of wings, large ones, and he looked outside his window where his peacock perched at night landed a grand celestial swan. And the swan was looking Krishna in the eyes to see if this was the proper recipient of the message entrusted to him. And he could see in Krishna's eyes clearly the longing for association with the Brijavasis, and clearly the indication that the love of Mathura was not satisfying his heart. So the swan expanded his wings and then folded them before Krishna and bowed down and introduced himself. I'm a messenger from the foremost friend of the princess, and don't falter by revealing her heart to a bird. Where else could she find shelter? Oh Krishna, do you remember that brown cow you fed with lotus leaves when she was a calf? She now has grown up and has her own calf. And remember that Basanti vine you married to the mango tree. They both shed endless tears of honey. And that makes us cry. And then hearing that, Krishna began to cry. And then the swan revealed the introduction to the unfolding drama of his words. Do you remember those two syllables, Radha? And Krishna couldn't believe that anyone would ask him such a thing, because those two syllables had sustained his life throughout the years of separation from Braj as he reigned in Mathura. And then the swan sang that verse we find in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Simply by dancing in the circle of Rasalila, you attracted Radha's love. Why then are you now so indifferent to her? She is lying before me on the ground, unconscious. I will test her breath with a cotton swab to see if she is still alive. And if she is, I will chastise her. That is a strategy to evoke Krishna's emotion. And it worked. He decided right then and there he would return with Uddhava. Balaram was so happy because he had also promised the Brijabasis that he would surely bring Krishna back. So he told Krishna, I'll take care of all your duties in Mathura, don't think about a thing here. And then Balaram presented Krishna with personal letters and gifts for all his family members and friends. And then he embraced Krishna, and Krishna rode off on his chariot with Uddhava. Ever since Krishna had left Braj, this 108-petaled lotus Braj had closed and dried up like a wasteland. And as Krishna approached, it was like the effects of the sun upon a lotus. It began to blossom. And in Braj, every forest, hill, tree, creeper, stream, stone, insect, bird, and beast, they received Krishna with a full display of their heartfelt emotion and affection. And the wasteland transformed into paradise. First to spot the two cloud-like figures riding on a chariot across the horizon was the cows. And they followed with their eyes. Did they dare believe that Krishna had returned? But then when the wind changed direction and the scent of Krishna's body entered their nostrils, those 900,000 cows all stampeded. And at first the gopas, young ones and the old ones alike, were frustrated. They just completely lost control of the cows. But then they looked, and did they dare believe that these personalities that the cows are running toward are Uddhava and Krishna returned? And then Krishna jumped off his chariot and expanded into a form appearing at the side of each and every cow, asking them, "O mothers, did you miss me as much as I missed you?" And all in unison, they said, Krishna got back on his chariot, and in the midst of what was like an ocean of cows, and the chariot was rocking back and forth as the cows were swaying. Laughing in great joy, he guided the chariot towards one gopa who had dark complexion, a yellow dhoti, a gold turban, and an ornate buffalo horn. And Krishna jumped off the chariot again. It was Sri Dhamma, a friend like no other, who would cry if he couldn't see Krishna for so much as an instant, and would proclaim Krishna's love by riding on his shoulders. When Sri Dhamma saw Krishna appearing before him, he was stunned. His body went limp, And he didn't dare to believe that this is real. So he just stood there in a limp form. Krishna embraced him. And then he held him at a distance so he could see, I'm here, Sri Dhamma. And then he embraced him again so tightly. And only when Sri Dhamma felt Krishna's heart beating in unison with his own did he dare believe. And he began singing and dancing. Gopal has returned, Gopal has returned, Gopal has returned to Vrindaban. And that instigated a spontaneous kirtan which rolled throughout the whole countryside like the sound of thunder. And the hearts of each and all the Brijavasis expanded like lotuses within the larger blossoming of the Dham as a lotus. And the cows were kicking up their heels. The gopas were dancing and singing. Different verses. Gopal has returned, and Uddhava is a real hero, true to his word. He's brought Krishna back. When Krishna reached Nandagram, Nanda and Jashoda could not receive him properly because, like everybody else, they were so stunned in ecstasy that they just gazed, not daring to believe that this is real, that Krishna's back. It was only when he bowed his head at their lotus feet and bathed them with his tears did they realize, this is Krishna. He is back. Mother Jashoda bathed him with her milk and her tears and embraced him so tightly. Nanda Maharaj would take turns embracing him. But as he embraced him so tightly, he couldn't believe that Krishna had returned, so he'd have to hold him at just far enough away that he could see him. And then he'd embrace him so tightly again. And then they entered the palace of Nanda Maharaj. And for the whole night, there was almost the whole night, till late at night, a great festival of singing and dancing and kissing and crying in great joy that Gopal has returned to Vrindavan on this very day for the month of Kartik. There was only one lotus which was yet to blossom. And that was because Srimati Radharani had years ago sent a message to be delivered by the wind to Krishna. When will my friends come running in all directions to tell me that you have come back? And that happened tonight. Her friends came running from all directions, telling her that Krishna is back. So the gopis had everything meticulously prepared to dress and decorate Radha to their heart's content with the most exquisite expertise, to every detail. She was dressed and decorated by the Sakhis and Manjris, and she kept wanting to jump up and run to Krishna, but Lalita's firm hand told her, no, not until we are finished dressing and decorating you to our heart's content. When they were finally done, and with her eyes she pleaded with Lalita, can I run to him now? She said, no. It's befitting that you call for him to come to you. And Radha pleaded with her, so many different types of glances, and Lalita was firm. He is going to come to you. Which he did so late tonight. everyone was asleep. And Krishna slipped out the window and followed his nocturnal path to the kunj, where she awaited with heart throbbing. And this is the episode we find in Nectar of Devotion, when Srimati Radharani cursed her ecstatic emotions. You know, some people pursue spiritual life with a selfish yearning for ecstasy. True devotees are only interested in what helps them serve Krishna and please him. When Krishna arrived at Radha's kunj, she could not receive him because she was stunned in spiritual ecstasy, paralyzed. She couldn't see through the tears in her eyes the form of Krishna. She couldn't move to receive him. And she cursed those ecstatic emotions. And yet, it was the first time that she smiled since the time when Krishna had left, so many years earlier. Finally, she composed herself and asked Gopal, how could you have stayed away for so long? Do you think your separation was a trivial affair to us? And the only response she received was Krishna's tears falling upon her pinkish lotus feet. And then she realized she didn't have to be so hard on him. And Krishna repeated the message he had sent so many times by Uddhava. Separation from me is impossible at any time, under any circumstance, in any place, because I'm the all-pervading Supersoul. That did not please Srimati Radharani, because she wondered, is this a pretext to his leaving again? So he tried a different strategy. Love, he said, love to her, love does not exist by itself. It requires a subject and an object. You, Radha, are the supreme lover. I am the supreme beloved. And there is nothing in creation equal to our love. Now that was more the music she wanted to hear. But the music didn't last for long, because the gopis had all preparations for Shardiya Rasalila. And there, in Braj, beneath the clear Kartik sky and the full moon, Rasalila resumed for the first time since Krishna had left for Mathura. And it followed similar patterns to other Rasalilas. They danced, and then they walked along Jamuna. Krishna wanted to be alone with Radha, so he stole her away. But they didn't go a short distance into the forest like they usually would before returning to the gopis. They went for a very, very long walk, far away from the slopes of Govardhan, to another mountain, Mount Rohit. And they climbed the mountain to the lake, Devasarovara, created by Narayana Rishi, and beautified with all artistic embellishments. And there, Krishna sat alone with Radha, and they joked very pleasantly on into the night. And then Radha saw on the far shore a sage standing on one leg. And who's that? I said, that's my devotee, Rivu Muni. She said, are you going to reciprocate with him? Because he'd been there 66,000 years performing austerities, desiring the darshan of Krishna, not realizing that Krishna's right in front of him. I mean, across the lake, but still right in front of him. So Radha asks, are you going to reciprocate with him? So Krishna reciprocated by withdrawing himself from his heart. Because Ribu Muni was so fixed on the Lord in his heart, he couldn't see the form of Krishna standing before him. So Krishna removed himself from the heart of his devotee, and Ribu Muni was so shocked, he opened his eyes and saw the form of Radha and Krishna before him. He bowed down, offered his prayers, circumambulated them, and then in great ecstasy attained Swarupi Mukti. He entered into the form of Krishna. But that's not the supreme fulfillment of love, so Krishna called him again, come out. He came out of the form of Krishna with a fresh, young, beautiful body. And then the celestial chariot descended to take him to Upper Golok. And the body he left behind melted into a river and flowed down the slopes of Mount Rohit. And Radha asked Krishna, why did he melt? He said, because he melted in prema. And that flow of prema will forever glorify our love and beautify this mountain. So every day, Krishna would spend early morning with his parents, rest of the morning with the gopas, noon with the gopis, afternoon with the gopas, early evening with his parents, late evening again with the gopis. And it was as it always was. And then the Brijabasis started speaking amongst themselves. Did you ever have this terrible nightmare that this person named Akrura, don't go there. It was just a bad dream. Gopal would never leave Vrindaban. But at the end of the month, Krishna again was gone. Back to Mathura. Was it a dream that he had ever left Vrindaban for Mathura? Or was it a dream that he had come back and they would wake to find that it was nothing but a dream? Or was it a dream within a dream? Truth is, Krishna cannot be separated from the Brijabasis in so much time as it takes to blink your eyes. He's always present in his fullest form, in their thoughts. And he lives in Mathura and later in Dwarka by the love lavished upon him by these thoughts of the Brijabasis' service to him and love for him. Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments?